You know what's wild? A recent study found that 67% of people would feel lost or incomplete if their favorite brand disappeared tomorrow. That's not product loyalty, that's identity attachment.
Well, that really hits at something deeper about how we view brands today, doesn't it? They're not just things we buy anymore.
Exactly right. And what's fascinating is how this plays into something psychologists call the self concept system. It's like a three-layer identity structure that explains why we form such deep emotional bonds with brands.
Hmm. Tell me more about these layers because I think this gets to the heart of why people become so defensive about their brand choices.
So you've got your actual self, who you think you are right now, your ideal self, who you want to become, and what's called the ought self, who society expects you to be. And here's the kicker. Brands position themselves in the gaps between these selves.
Oh, wow. So when someone buys a Nike product, they're not really buying shoes, are they?
Not at all. Studies show that people who buy fitness brands are actually purchasing what marketers call aspirational identity markers. You're literally trying to buy a bridge to that disciplined, fit version of yourself you want to become.
That explains why recent market research found that 71% of consumers choose brands that align with their personal values rather than just product features.
And look at how Apple has mastered this. They've created what brand strategists call an identity scaffold, where their products aren't just devices, they're statements about creativity, intentionality, and design consciousness.
You know what's interesting about Apple specifically? Their customer satisfaction scores are actually lower than some competitors, but their brand loyalty is through the roof.
That's because, and this is fascinating, neuroscience studies show that brand criticism activates the same brain regions as personal insults. When someone attacks your favorite brand, it's literally processed as a threat to your identity.
Well, that explains why a recent consumer behavior study found that 64% of people would feel personally offended if someone criticized their preferred brand.
And here's where it gets really interesting. This identity attachment is so strong that studies show people will actually defend brands even when presented with clear evidence of their flaws or shortcomings.
So, what does this mean for consumers? How do we maintain a healthy relationship with brands without letting them define us?
Well, behavioral economists suggest starting with what they call a brand audit, identifying which brands you feel emotionally connected to, and asking yourself, what version of me is this brand supporting? What happens to my self image if this brand disappears?
That reminds me of recent research showing that people who maintain strong, independent self concepts are actually less susceptible to brand manipulation.
Exactly. And this has huge implications for marketers too. Because if you're creating brands that people build their identities around, you have an ethical responsibility to understand the psychological impact of your decisions.
The data really backs that up. Studies show that when brands violate consumer trust, it takes an average of 4 years to rebuild that relationship.
You know what's particularly fascinating? Research indicates that the strongest brand relationships aren't even about product quality, they're about identity alignment. People will stick with inferior products if they feel the brand gets who they are.
That really brings it full circle to why brand criticism can feel so personal. Like we're not just defending a product, we're defending our sense of self.
And that's the key takeaway here. Understanding these psychological mechanisms doesn't make us immune to them, but it does help us make more conscious choices about which brands we let into our identity structure.
So it's really about finding that sweet spot between appreciating what brands can do for us while maintaining a strong sense of self that exists independently of our consumer choices.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, brands should be tools for self expression, not the foundation of who we are. That's the difference between healthy brand relationships and identity dependency.